Some people spend their entire lives chasing success, only to discover they were running in the wrong direction. The truth is far more unsettling than anyone wants to admit. Success has never belonged to the loudest voice, the luckiest person, or the one who wanted it the most. It belongs to those who become impossible to ignore long before the world even notices they exist. Right now, without realizing it, you could be repeating the same invisible mistakes that keep millions of people trapped in ordinary lives. Mistakes so subtle they feel completely normal, until one day you wake up and years have disappeared, while someone with no greater talent quietly builds the life you once imagined for yourself. The frightening part is that almost nobody recognizes these mistakes until it's already too late. Over the next few minutes, I am going to reveal 9 timeless principles that separate the people who spend their lives waiting from the people the world eventually cannot overlook. These aren't simple motivational quotes. They are psychological laws. Once you understand them, you will begin seeing success through an entirely different lens, and you will never look at your own life the same way again. Before we begin, I need one thing from you. Do not treat this like passive entertainment. Listen as if every principle is exposing a hidden weakness inside your own mind, because the moment you recognize it, you gain the absolute power to change it. And this first principle may be the one that changes everything. Principle 1. Stop chasing success. Become impossible to ignore. Imagine standing in front of a mountain and shouting at it to move. You can scream louder, beg harder, or blame the mountain for refusing to listen, but nothing changes. Then, one person quietly picks up a hammer and starts carving. A year later, the mountain still stands, but a path now runs straight through it. That is the difference between people who chase success and people who become unforgettable. One spends years demanding results from the world. The other spends those same years becoming so valuable that the world has no choice but to respond. Success has never respected desperation. It has always respected transformation. Marcus Aurelius never woke up asking, "How can I become legendary?" He woke up asking, "How can I become better than I was yesterday?" History remembers him not because he hunted greatness, but because greatness quietly followed a man who refused to stop refining himself when nobody was watching. Most people destroy their future without realizing it. They refresh the numbers before improving the skill. They seek recognition before earning mastery. They become addicted to visible progress. And because real growth is invisible at first, they mistake silence for failure, quitting while success is still walking toward them. Think about a blacksmith forging a sword. Every strike looks identical. The first 100 blows seem meaningless, and to an impatient eye, nothing is changing. But deep inside the steel, every impact is rearranging its strength. Then suddenly, what looked like ordinary metal becomes a blade capable of cutting through armor. The sword was never created in the final strike. It was created by every single strike that nobody thought mattered. Your life works the exact same way. Every book you finish when nobody applauds, every workout completed in an empty room, every skill practiced after everyone else has gone to sleep, none of it feels important today. But these invisible actions are quietly building a version of you that opportunities will eventually recognize before people do. This is why ordinary people stay ordinary. They demand proof before they commit. Extraordinary people commit long before the proof ever appears. They understand a law most people spend their whole lives fighting. The world only notices what has already been built in private. So from this moment on, stop asking when success will come. Ask a far more dangerous question. Who must I become so that success has nowhere else to go? Because once that question takes over your mind, everything changes. And this next principle will show you the silent habit that multiplies your growth faster than almost anything else. Principle 2. Fall in love with mastery, not recognition. There is a silent addiction destroying more dreams than failure ever could. It isn't laziness, and it isn't fear. It is the craving to be seen before you've become someone worth remembering. The moment recognition becomes your primary goal, your growth quietly begins to die. Picture an archer standing before a target. A beginner stares at the bullseye, desperate to hit it. But the master barely looks at the target at all. His attention stays on one thing only: his breath, his stance, his grip, his release. He understands something the beginner never will. The arrow doesn't obey desire, it obeys discipline. This is exactly why most people stay stuck. They obsess over subscribers instead of skill, followers instead of value, applause instead of mastery. They keep staring at the scoreboard while the winners are quietly becoming so skilled that the scoreboard has no choice but to change. Leonardo da Vinci spent years perfecting tiny details that almost nobody would ever notice, hours on a single hand, days studying light, weeks correcting one mistake. To everyone else, it looked painfully slow. But genius is never built through speed. It is built through an obsession with details ordinary people are too impatient to respect. Imagine planting an oak tree, and every morning you dig it up just to check if the roots have grown. Every time you do, you delay the very growth you are desperate to see. That is exactly what happens every time you chase validation. Every time you stop working just to see who noticed, you pull your own roots right out of the ground. Here is the brutal truth. Success is not attracted to people who want attention. It is attracted to people whose ability becomes impossible to replace. When your craft reaches a certain level, opportunities begin searching for you long before you start searching for them. Ask yourself one uncomfortable question. If nobody applauded your effort for the next 2 years, would you still keep improving? Your answer reveals whether you are building a legacy or simply performing for an audience. Remember this for the rest of your life. Recognition is borrowed, mastery is owned. Recognition can disappear overnight, but mastery stays with you forever, quietly opening doors that hard work alone never could. Yet there is one invisible enemy that destroys even the most disciplined people before they ever reach mastery. It whispers that comfort is harmless, when in reality, comfort has been stealing your future one easy choice at a time. That is exactly what this next principle exposes. Principle 3. Comfort doesn't protect you, it quietly destroys you. There is a prison so dangerous that millions of people willingly lock themselves inside it every single day, and they call it comfort. It doesn't look like a prison because it never hurts you immediately. It smiles at you, lets you rest, and whispers, "You can start tomorrow." While you keep believing it, your future quietly disappears behind your back. The greatest tragedy is not failing. The greatest tragedy is waking up one day and realizing you became exactly the person comfort wanted you to become. Predictable, average, and full of potential that was never used. Life doesn't steal your dreams overnight. It steals them one comfortable decision at a time. Seneca understood this better than almost anyone. He deliberately chose days of hardship, simple food, rough clothes, uncomfortable living. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he refused to let comfort become his master. He knew that the man who only feels strong in comfortable conditions is not strong at all. He is simply protected. Picture a sword lying untouched inside a beautiful glass case. It shines, looks perfect, and never gets scratched. But the first time it faces a real battle, it shatters. Beside it stands another sword covered in scars, forged again and again inside unbearable fire. One looks impressive, the other survives reality. Growth has never been created inside comfort. It has always been forged inside resistance. Think about your own life. Every difficult conversation you keep postponing, every workout you promise to start next week, every opportunity you avoid because failure feels embarrassing. Those moments aren't testing your ability. They are testing whether comfort still controls your decisions. Here is what almost nobody realizes. Confidence is not built by winning. Confidence is built by repeatedly surviving things your mind once believed would break you. Every voluntary hardship sends one clear message to your brain: I am stronger than my fear. After hearing that message enough times, fear slowly loses its authority over you. The people you admire aren't fearless. They simply stopped negotiating with discomfort. While everyone else searched for the easiest road, they chose the path that demanded more from them. Years later, people call them talented, never realizing they were simply willing to stay uncomfortable longer than everyone else. So the next time your mind begs for the easier option, pause for a second and ask yourself a dangerous question. Is this choice building my future or protecting my comfort? That single question can change the direction of your entire life, because this next principle reveals an invisible force that drains your potential every single day without making a sound. Principle 4. The world doesn't reward effort, it rewards identity. Every morning before you make your first decision, your brain asks one silent question. Who am I today? Whatever answer you have repeated for years becomes the invisible script your entire life follows. Most people don't lose because they lack discipline. They lose because they are trying to act like someone they have never decided to become. Imagine an eagle raised among chickens. It eats what they eat, walks where they walk, and spends its whole life believing the sky belongs to someone else. One day it spreads its wings by accident and realizes the prison was never the cage, it was the identity it accepted without questioning. The exact same thing is happening to millions of people right now. Epictetus taught that no one can imprison your mind without your permission, yet every single day people do it to themselves. They repeat the same sentences: I'm not disciplined, I'm not talented, I'm always unlucky. They think these are observations, but they are not, they are commands. And your mind obeys every command you repeat often enough. Look at an Olympic athlete. They don't wake up asking, should I train today? That decision was made years ago. Training isn't something they do, it's who they are. When your identity changes, discipline stops feeling like sacrifice and becomes your natural behavior. You no longer force yourself to act differently because you have become someone different. This is why motivation keeps failing you. Motivation fights your identity, and identity wins every single time. If you still believe you are an average person trying to build an extraordinary life, your old identity will pull you back every time you make progress. You cannot outperform the story you keep telling yourself. So stop saying, I want success. Start asking, what would the person I am becoming do next? That one question rewires your decisions. Suddenly, the workout isn't difficult, reading isn't boring, and waking up early isn't painful. They are simply what your new identity does, whether anyone is watching or not. One identity creates excuses, another creates evidence. Every difficult choice you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. One vote changes nothing, but 1,000 votes create a completely different human being. One day people will call it talent because they never saw the quiet identity you built in private. However, even the strongest identity can be destroyed by one invisible habit, a habit that quietly steals your focus, your peace, and your future without you realizing it. Principle 5. Guard your mind, because everything wants to steal it. There is something more valuable than your time, more valuable than your money, and even more valuable than your talent: your attention. Wherever your attention goes, your life quietly follows. The frightening truth is that the modern world is engineered to steal it from you every single day. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while dozens of tiny holes leak from the bottom. You work harder, carry more water, and blame yourself for not making progress. But the real problem was never how much water you poured in, it was everything silently draining it away. That is exactly how most people live. They don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because their focus is bleeding in 100 different directions. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire surrounded by chaos, betrayal, war, and endless opinions. Yet every night he returned to one simple truth: your mind belongs to you, unless you hand it away. Today, people surrender it without a fight. One notification, one negative comment, one meaningless comparison, 1 hour of endless scrolling. Little by little, they become strangers to their own purpose. Look at a magnifying glass under the sun. Sunlight by itself feels harmless, but concentrate those same rays into a single point, and they become powerful enough to start a fire. Human attention works the exact same way. A distracted mind warms nothing, but a focused mind changes everything. The people who transform their lives are not always the smartest in the room. They are the people who learn to protect their attention like a king protects his throne. They say no to conversations that steal their peace, no to habits that weaken their discipline, and no to opinions that have never built anything worth admiring. Every single no creates space for a far more powerful yes. Ask yourself something brutally honest. Who has controlled your mind today? Was it your purpose or someone else's opinion? Was it your vision or an algorithm deciding what deserved your attention? If the world can choose what you think about every hour, it has already chosen the direction of your life. From this day forward, stop treating your attention like spare change. Treat it like your greatest investment. Protect it, train it, and aim it at one meaningful goal long enough that the impossible begins to look inevitable. Success is never created by people who pay attention to everything. It is created by people who become obsessed with one thing until the world is forced to notice. And yet, even perfect focus is not enough. There is one final trap that quietly destroys people just before success arrives. It doesn't appear as failure, it appears as progress. Principle 6. The moment you start performing, you stop growing. There comes a moment in almost every ambitious person's life when success begins to whisper a dangerous lie. Look how far you've come. Now make sure everyone sees it. That whisper has destroyed more potential than failure ever has, because the moment your focus shifts from becoming to being admired, your growth quietly begins to stall. Imagine a tree standing deep inside a forest. It doesn't grow taller because someone is watching, nor does it stretch toward the sky hoping for applause. It grows because growth is its fundamental nature. Now imagine another tree that stopped growing the moment people started praising its height. Years later, the first tree towers above the entire forest, while the second remains trapped by the moment it chose admiration over progress. Marcus Aurelius wrote his deepest thoughts in complete privacy, never intending for the world to read them. He wasn't building an audience. He was building himself. That is why his words still guide millions of people centuries later. History remembers those who were obsessed with truth, not those who were obsessed with attention. Watch what happens after someone achieves their first taste of success. They stop practicing and start protecting their image. They stop learning and start defending their reputation. Every decision becomes about looking successful instead of becoming stronger. From the outside, they still appear to be climbing, but inside, they have already stopped moving. The most dangerous version of failure doesn't feel like failure at all. It feels like comfort wrapped in applause. It convinces you that because people admire who you are today, you no longer need to become someone greater tomorrow. Without realizing it, your greatest achievement quietly becomes the ceiling you refuse to break. Ask yourself this question with complete honesty. If every compliment disappeared tomorrow, would your standards remain exactly the same? If the answer is yes, you are chasing mastery. If the answer is no, you have slowly become addicted to recognition, and recognition is a drug that always demands a higher dose. Never let success become your identity. Let it become your byproduct. The strongest people in the world celebrate for a moment, then return to the work before anyone expects them to. They know that yesterday's victory cannot build tomorrow's life. Only today's discipline can do that. Principle 7. Become dangerous by learning to wait. The strongest people you will ever meet are not the fastest. They are the ones who never allowed time to become their enemy. While everyone else is obsessed with speed, they are obsessed with endurance, because they know a truth that destroys impatience forever. Anything built too quickly usually collapses just as fast. Picture a glacier moving across a mountain. Day after day, it seems completely still. Anyone watching for a few minutes would laugh and say, "It's not moving." But come back 100 years later, and you will find that same silent glacier has carved entire valleys through solid rock. It never rushed, it never panicked, yet nothing in its path was strong enough to stop it. This is where most people lose the battle without realizing they are fighting. They don't quit because the dream is impossible. They quit because the reward didn't arrive on their specific schedule. They mistake silence for failure, not realizing that the greatest transformations are almost always invisible before they become undeniable. History leaves the same fingerprints everywhere. A bamboo seed can spend years building roots that nobody sees. To an impatient eye, it looks lifeless. Then, in a matter of weeks, it rises higher than anyone imagined possible. People call it sudden success, forgetting the invisible years that made the explosion inevitable. Ask yourself honestly, are you measuring your progress by your effort or by other people's ability to notice it? Those are two completely different scoreboards. One creates resilient people. The other creates frustrated people who abandon the journey right before the breakthrough they were praying for. Patience is not passive. It is one of the highest forms of discipline. It means showing up when nothing is changing, believing when nothing is proving itself, and building when nobody is clapping. Anyone can work when results are obvious. Very few can keep working when faith is the only evidence they have left. Never forget this. The tree that survives the storm is not the one that grew the fastest. It is the one that spent the longest time strengthening its roots where nobody could see them. The world celebrates the height, but nature rewards the roots. Principle 8. Stop waiting for permission. Your future is waiting for you. There comes a moment that separates people who dream about extraordinary lives from those who actually build them. It isn't the day they become fearless, nor is it the day they finally feel ready. It is the day they stop waiting for someone else to tell them they can begin. Most people waste years standing in front of doors that were never locked. They wait for confidence before taking action, certainty before making the decision, and life to give them a sign, never realizing that every day they hesitate, someone else with less talent but more courage quietly walks past them. Imagine an eagle sitting on the edge of a cliff. The wind is strong and the sky is uncertain. For a moment, it hesitates, not because its wings are weak, but because it has forgotten what they were made for. The second it jumps, the wind that once looked dangerous becomes the very thing that allows it to soar. The fall was never its enemy, hesitation was. The Stoics never believed that courage arrived before action. They believed the exact opposite. Courage is born the moment you move despite uncertainty. Fear doesn't disappear because you waited long enough. It disappears because you prove to yourself that it never had the power to stop you in the first place. Look at history closely. Every remarkable person began before they felt prepared. They spoke before their voice stopped shaking, built before they knew every answer, and accepted that perfection is not the price of success, action is. Waiting for the perfect moment has buried more dreams than failure ever could. Ask yourself one uncomfortable question. Who are you still waiting for? Are you waiting for approval, confidence, or circumstances to become easier? Or are you waiting for a version of yourself that can only exist after you take the first step? The life you are hoping for will never arrive to rescue you. It is waiting for you to rescue it. From this moment on, stop asking whether you are ready, and start asking whether you are willing. Readiness is a feeling that comes and goes, but willingness is a decision, and decisions shape destiny far more than emotions ever will. The people the world calls fearless were never born without fear. They simply reached a point where the pain of staying the same became greater than the fear of moving forward. The day you stop asking permission to become who you were meant to be is the day your future finally begins chasing you. Principle 9. Success was never the destination. It was the person you were becoming. At the beginning of this journey, you may have believed success was something waiting for you somewhere in the future, a destination, a reward, a moment when life would finally say, "You've made it." But after everything you have discovered, you can finally see the ultimate truth. Success was never waiting at the end of the road. It was quietly taking shape inside you every single day. Imagine a sculptor standing before a massive block of stone. To everyone else, it is nothing more than a lifeless rock. But the sculptor never sees just the stone. He sees the masterpiece trapped inside it. Every strike of the chisel removes something unnecessary. He isn't creating greatness. He is revealing what was already there. Your journey has never been about adding more to yourself. It has been about removing everything that was holding the real you back. This is what the Stoics understood long before the modern world became obsessed with achievements. They knew that the greatest victory is never over money, status, or other people. It is over the weaker version of yourself that once surrendered to fear, comfort, and noise. When you stop chasing results and start refining your character, the outcome takes care of itself. The skill matures, the mind clears, the discipline hardens, and the results arrive not because you begged for them, but because you became the kind of person who commands them naturally. Look back at every challenge that tried to break you, every moment of uncertainty, every quiet hour of unseen work. None of it was wasted. It was all part of the forging process, carving away the hesitation until only strength remained. You do not need to wait for the world to validate your progress. The true reward is already here. It is the clarity in your thinking, the steadiness in your actions, and the unwavering belief that no matter what stands in front of you, you possess the capacity to build a path through it. Stop looking for success out in the world, and start revealing the person who was built for it all along.